Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Esoteric Nerding series on the MiSTer FPGA DE10 Nano project, and you know what time it is. It's time to test some more Nintendo 64 games, because Robert FPGA Zoomspots has updated the core again with more bug fixes. And if you missed my video earlier in the week, we are now at a feature-complete Nintendo 64 implementation in FPGA. All the components are there, it's now just down to making sure they all run correctly. Before we get too far involved, it'd be a huge favor down below, hit like and subscribe and ring that notification bell, definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, we got a Patreon link down below as well. But touching on Paper Mario, it's been a few months since I tested this, and I wanted to talk about it for two specific reasons. One is because there was a bug fix that fixes the flames in some areas of the game. Two is because I told you in the last video, when I knew this game was completable and you can finish it, I would let you guys know. This is now marked as completable on the spreadsheet, so you can play from start to finish Paper Mario. I don't know if anyone's 100% completed it yet, so there could be some sort of bug in one random side mission, but for the most part, you can sit down and play Paper Mario just like it was a real console, and you're going to have an exactly identical experience. Because right here, and this is FPGA Zoomspots footage, this is what the flames looked like on a previous core. They were not displaying correctly, they were blue boxes. Now you're going to see that there is a flame there. It's just an RDP bug, and that's where the core currently sits. There's going to be a lot of bug fix cores coming in, dealing with different implementations in the RDP or reality display processor to make sure that it's displaying the graphics correctly. Now, something like those flames are going to use a graphical mode that just was not 100% strung together. But outside of that, all of this footage of Paper Mario, all of the gameplay, all of the music, all of the sound should just be working extremely close to real hardware. If you notice anything in the footage whatsoever, leave me a comment down below, but I went over this and I did not see any issues whatsoever, because this is one of the best Paper Mario games in my opinion, and one of my favorite games on Nintendo 64. It's so fun to know that this is something that you can just sit down and enjoy like you're playing on original hardware, and of course you get all of the nice quality of life features of something like MiSTer FPGA. As we move around, all of the polygons, all of the sprites, everything are drawing correctly to the screen, and now with that flame fix in, everything is good to go. And obviously we've had saving for a while as well, so you can continue your adventure wherever you feel like leaving it off. And this is just awesome to see. I love this look on Nintendo 64, this mix of 3D and 2D at the same time. It's got so much charm and flair, and it really is one of my favorite games on Nintendo 64, and today on the core you can enjoy it exactly how it was intended. Now, a game that's seen some graphical improvements is going to be Banjo. Last time I showed you this, there was still a little bit of sprite corruption going on, and while you might notice a little bit of weirdness around the edges, this is definitely a much more cleaned up experience than the last time we took a look at it. And it is one of those games where pretty much every single video someone asked me if it's working and to retest it. It's been a bit since we've looked at this, but you can see from the background to all of those character portraits, everything seems to be looking relatively good. You'll see every once in a while the background does something weird, but this is like 90% less than it was in the previous core, but there's still something going on in Banjo that will occasionally throw up graphical glitches. But last time we looked at this, it was more like a flashing strobing effect on the background than those two little blips you saw there. And as we come up to the first boss in the first level, everything works totally fine, but the same problem still does exist. So everyone who's been asking for a retest of this game, you're going to see the minute we defeat him and we fly into the screen in white, the core is just going to freeze from there. Not much else we can do about it at this point in time. Now, moving over to WWF No Mercy, this is something that another user on Mr. Discord, who is a huge fan of wrestling games, noticed, and I absolutely love this ridiculous, highly compressed JPEG footage that you get on the character intros. Now, this is actually going to be a fun test. This clip right here is on the new core, and I will tell you when we go back to a previous core that has visual glitches in it from RDP. I want to know if you can actually tell where the difference is. It is very subtle, but you will be able to see it if you pause, look around, and kind of notice things. And the reason that I'm really doing this is because I want you to understand just how subtle some of these bugs actually are in the FPGA implementation, and just how good of work FPGA Zoomspots has done getting this core to this point in time. It's really going to be picking out individual bugs and trying to fix them. And again, I know this is not on update all yet. I mentioned it in the previous video, but if you missed that, the developer of this core wants to try to fix most of the the bugs before it goes into a public release on GitHub so that he's not inundated with the same bug reports that everyone in Discord's already aware of. But of course you can 100% manually install this, and I love the rock's face here. Absolutely no expression whatsoever, but at least you can tell it is the rock. So we're still on the new core here. Take one last look around the screen, see if you notice anything. You're not going to quite yet, but as we transition to this next clip, there is going to be a difference. So take a peek around and see if you can notice it. It's just a fun test outside of giving you a sound sample, which I'm not doing in this video. I want you to understand that this is the level in which some games are getting bug fixes on the current core. You may never even notice the difference between the old clip and the new clip that I'm showing you right now, but you'll have to see if you can figure it out, and I will be curious. I'm assuming most people can't. And now I'm moving back over to the new core, so it may look a little bit different. But the core is shaping up so well. We're at the point with certain games where the bug fixes that are coming in per core might require you to pixel peep to actually see the differences. Obviously something like Banjo freezing, that's a well and obviously known bug. And let's move over to JetForce Gemini again, because you guys keep asking me to retest this one as well and talk about what's going on. It is doing the exact same thing as it was before. You can get into the intro splash screen, you can see the Rare logo rotating around, you will see the character running towards the screen with this vignette over the top and the JetForce Gemini logo coming in. From there you can even start controlling the menu, but unfortunately it's going to freeze, but it freezes in different spots, and that's why it's sometimes difficult to actually track down certain bugs. Right here you see you can press start and it's going to give you that icon, and then once you actually do that, it's going to give you the options to start the game or go to the options menu. And you're going to see in this little clip here, it's going to freeze at a certain spot, and when we move over to the next clip, it's going to freeze in a different spot. I'm running this long so you can understand it has nothing to do with this menu per se, but it has something to do with something in the background. Because as we actually hit start here and you go into options, you're going to see that the game is going to stop executing code. That's all you get from there. Now if we move over to a different clip, we reset the core, you're going to see a different behavior. And I want you to understand how some of these bug hunts can be very difficult. You look for something that is repeatable. You want the same bug to occur in the same way at the same point in time, so you can basically go through everything that would be running in the background like a developer of a video game would actually bug fix things, and start going through the code and seeing what's going on. Once the menu comes up this time, you can see that if you go over to options, suddenly it actually does bring the options menu up. It's going to freeze, but it doesn't freeze in the same spot and it doesn't freeze in the same way. These are the type of bugs that can be very difficult to track down. I'm sure Robert will get there, but if you want to play this game right now, it's just not a thing you can do, but everyone wants it retested, so I figured why not talk about how to track down bugs and why it can be difficult, while at the same time showing you that JetForce Gemini unfortunately still doesn't play, because you'll see here the game now froze in a completely different way. Now moving over to Indiana Jones, this is a game that people have been asking to see more footage of because it has improved since the first time I showed it running, which was the first day some games actually started working, and it is weirdly accurate just how close this newspaper hews to our modern society, and is a fun but sad little realization here. But as we get into the actual gameplay footage, last time I showed you this game, it was not running at full speed and there was definitely a few graphical glitches. Those seem to have all been ironed out, and it's a way more smooth experience when you actually play this game. But you're gonna have to tell me down below in the comments, did you play this game back in the day and why do you enjoy it? I always try to hang with this and try to get better at it, but I did not play this back when it was new on the market, so I don't have that nostalgia for it. I will say that this game definitely fights me at every turn when I'm playing it. Big thanks to Andy D for grabbing the capture of this one. He said the same thing to me and we kind of chatted about it in the background, and we weren't quite sure what exactly you're supposed to do with Indiana Jones. It's a very interesting game. It's a very fun game to look at, but sometimes the gameplay just seems a little bit strange. You would think here that you would have to use the whip or something to get across this giant chasm, but what you actually have to do is take a running jump. This looks like way too long of a jump for anyone, including Harrison Ford, to make, but that's just what the game expects of you. It is an interesting game, it is visually unique, and it is one of the more impressive games model-wise on the system in my opinion. I've just never 100% understood exactly why everyone loves this game so much. So leave me a comment down below. I've also never understood how physics and whips work. You would think that if you just whip that post there and try to support your weight on it, it would pull off. I'm sure whips really do work like that in real life, but I'll have to read a physics article about it. As a completely random aside, just so I can kind of talk about Indiana Jones and how I don't understand whips. But as far as the actual gameplay is concerned, it is doing much better. All of the controls are here, the speed is good, and I didn't notice any graphical glitches outside of a little bit of messiness on that newspaper scroll in the beginning. And I love that Indiana Jones brought a gun to a fang fight right here, and apparently this snake can take 2 bullets. He is relatively strong. Now, one other game that people have been asking to see retested to see if the freezing issue has been improved is going to be Resident Evil 2. The intro now is 100% smooth. Last time we showed it to you, it was like 95% of the way there, but there could be a couple glitches here and there. Now this heavily compressed but still impressive FMV intro on the cartridge and on MiSTer FPGA just works. This is one of the biggest cartridges to actually be used on Nintendo 64, and do be aware, depending on the size of the RAM module you're using, some games may not work. I highly recommend a 128 megabyte RAM module so you can play the entirety of the Nintendo 64 library. You might be able to get away with a 64 megabyte one, but if you're underneath anything like that, it's really not going to work for games like this. And I have got a few comments where people say they have the core running, but it's not perfectly running. Why won't X game work? And 10 out of 10 times I find out that they have a RAM module that's too small to actually be able to deal with the game in question, because it took a lot of space in a ROM to actually be able to have these FMVs working. It is highly impressive, but you want to have that 128 megabyte RAM module to make sure you can do this. But the great part is the FMV is 100% completely glitchless. It looks great to my eyes. Unfortunately, when you get into the game, this has the same freezing issue it did before, and just like Jet Force Gemini, it is not consistent. Sometimes it'll freeze on the first screen, sometimes you can get a dozen screens in and then it will randomly freeze. Sometimes it freezes in the options menu, sometimes it doesn't. So it is something that needs to be improved with bug fixing, but again, these are the hard ones. The freezes, the crashes, the problems that don't happen the same way, the same time, every time you play the game. They're hard to track down, but I'm sure we'll get there. But that's the current situation with the current MiSTer FPGA Nintendo 64 core. Robert's definitely into the bug fixing territory, and we all know he's going to get this done. We just have to be patient. Next time there's a new core with new bug fixes, I'll definitely do a video. But leave me a comment down below and tell me the games you want to see retested from way back early in this series, because I'm sure there's some games I haven't looked at since like last summer. But short of that, go download the newest core, start trying it out, see how it goes, and let me know in the comments down below. But we are done, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.